Good morning, everyone. And Merry Christmas as well. I know it's a bit late, but hey, better late than never, right? Awesome. Let me check if we have any anonymous questions to see this week. I mean, this year is still applicable too. It's probably going to be the last one this year. Let's have a look. Where are my anonymous questions? Hey, Ryan! Thanks for joining, buddy. Okay, we got no anonymous questions this week. That's good. We have two bigger questions though. Only two from the community, so if you have any questions, you can just drop them in the chat. If this is like your first time joining for these AMA sessions, feel free to just ask me anything, really. I mean, that's what the AMA stands for, right? Getting some more people popping in. How are you doing, Ryan? Isn't it like really late over there? Or am I just mistaken? Or like really early? I don't know. Depends on how you look at it, I guess. $4 a.m. Jesus, man. You're crazy. Well, that's a good question. Is this... I'm gonna dive into the community questions first, right? But is this more like a personal thing for me? About my art, or just like in general? About like your art in general? Alright, let's dive into some questions. The first question is from Subham Trapati. So I've seen a lot of people using 3D party paid plugins for modeling like Resolve UV, Railclone, Rayfire, etc. They are kind of part of the workflow, so when you get a job inside of any studio, do they pay you to get those plugins because they're part of your workflow, or are you supposed to purchase them yourself? This is a very good question actually, because from my experience, it doesn't really matter what your workflow is. If you get hired, you're gonna need to adapt to the workflow that they have in the studio. So that doesn't mean that they don't have space for you to buy your own plugins, or that they maybe even have a budget in some cases to buy plugins for you. But I would say in most cases, you're gonna be adapting to the workflow that they have. And if they have, for example, other UV tools, or they don't really have like dedicated UV tools like that, then you're gonna be needing to adapt to them. Because I would definitely say there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes with like third-party plugins, right? There's like security issues, especially with bigger companies, where you don't know what might be sneaking into those plugins, so they have to be thoroughly checked by IT. That's one thing, and they have to be cleared by IT as well before you can actually properly use them, because there might be a bunch of like licensing issues. Also, talking about licensing, when you buy a license for a plugin, usually it's a personal plugin and it's not a studio. It's a personal license, I mean. It's not a studio license. And usually the studio licenses are like way more expensive than just what you bought the plugin for. This is not in all cases, right? Because there are plugins that don't have like a studio license. But there are definitely plugins that have like studio licenses attached to them, especially for these cases. I would say that them paying you to buy those plugins is definitely an exception. It kind of has to be a part of the budget of the studio itself. So let's think. I'm thinking about like an example. Can't really think of any good example right at the moment. There must be some Blender examples that I've encountered. But yeah, like if you're gonna buy them yourself, you still need to get them checked by IT and yeah, get everything cleared before you can actually start using them, just for like security purposes. Yeah, I know, right? Like so many 3D softwares have awful built-in UV tools. I know. So that's why I was thinking about Blender, because I don't think I have any add-ons installed at work, because the work that I do, without going into like a lot of details, is not really that detailed anyway. But yeah, that is definitely a part of it. I would expect that in some cases, like the studio does have a budget, right? Or say like a company makes the switch to Blender, for example, or like they start using Blender more properly, then the studio might propose like a budget for that new tool and like adaptations, and like the artists get together to propose like a suggested toolkit for add-ons that they might use. And in this case, say we're talking about Blender, I think UVs is definitely going to be like the UV tools are definitely going to be like the biggest thing that people will ask for. Because for example, box cutter, those are more like specific workflows for specific people and not everyone uses them, but like good UV tools is definitely what you need. So for example, again, in Blender's case, you'll probably have all the artists coming together, like proposing a plan to get like UV plugins for Blender in this case. That is a really good question though. There is also a side to this where the studio already has access to like a bunch of plugins too. So maybe if you're lucky, like the plugins that you use are already available at the studio, and it's just about picking up like a floating license or something like that. I use Rhythm, learn about it in prop class. I can't use anything else on. I don't think I've ever used Rhythm. Is that like a standalone UV tool? Let's actually quickly look it up. Rhythm. Yep. Looks like it's a standalone thing, right? Yeah. Oh, nice. That's a good question. We got one more question from the community to go through, and then we're gonna dive into the chat questions. It's really clean and easy. It's made by the dude that wrote the original Maya plugin. Oh, okay, cool. You're loving the music vibe today. Yeah, it's the same playlist that I always have. It's just putting up some good tunes today. All right, Leon, your question's next, buddy. While watching you and other 3D artists stream, I noticed that sometimes getting things done just takes a lot of time, and maybe longer than one might expect without much experience. Before you were working, how did you evaluate your own work speed to judge if you were too slow or too fast, if such a thing even exists? First, let's talk about what I was thinking when I was a student, right? Like if I was working too slow or too fast, and I wasn't really thinking about it, honestly. And now thinking back at it, I was probably one of the slowest people ever. But I didn't really think about it that much because I was just really interested in like solving problems and like going from one thing to the next and like exploration and really like pushing the stuff that I was interested to. So I'm pretty sure that this is like a super generic answer to that question, right? But let's, instead of just keeping it to the generic side, how would I have evaluated my own work speed to judge if I were too slow or too fast when I was in uni? I would probably look at the people that were most inspirational in my class and like the quickest people to finish stuff with a good end result, because the speed should never be like quality should never be sacrificed for speed, right? So the quality always comes first. But I would look up to the people that pushed out really great work and did it really quickly too. And if I evaluate my own work speed compared to that, then I'm probably I was probably considered like one of the more slow people in the class, like in the entire class. But you don't really know what the other people have, right? Like maybe they have a pre-existing knowledge of like graphical design, which helps them with like good compositions, good color usage. Maybe they're more open than some people and talk to other people all the time and get inspired by them, which I didn't do all the time, or like barely. I had like a small friends group that I just talked to. So yeah, there's like a whole bunch of factors that can influence the speed. Could I have been quicker? Yeah, but maybe working quicker would result in me making additional sacrifices on like experimenting with particles, experimenting with good materials, like experimenting with like doing some crazy stuff in Unreal, like working in blueprints. And maybe those other people didn't have that experience. I think it's such a cliche thing to say, right? I know that we're deviating a bit from the question itself, but the most important part is always like following your passion. It's like if you're interested or if something interests you, just follow down that path and see where it takes you. And then if it doesn't interest you after like a little bit, just switch it up with something else. Because learning what you don't love to do is as important or even more important than learning what you love to do. But yeah, it's experience. Because in the beginning, like especially in the beginning when you're getting into the games industry, like I still remember having to do like estimates for how long something would take. For example, making like a simple sci-fi prop, for example. I was like, okay, that's gonna take me like 3 days or something. And then I ended up being stuck on something for like a day, and that just pushed the deadline because I wasn't really seeing that thing coming. So there's always stuff that can come in between. And yeah, that's something that comes with experience, like knowing the tools and knowing what can possibly go wrong with them, always adding in like a little bit of a buffer for that specifically, where if you say like, okay, like if I hit no bumps, I can do this in like 3 days, for example, but I'll build in like a buffer So I'll do it in 4 to 5 days, say like a work week. And then if I'm done sooner, then that's good. Then I can start on the next thing. And they'll also see it as you being done quicker. There's obviously a balance on the other side where you can't just say like, oh, a prop that's gonna take me like 3 days, I'll just take 3 weeks for it. There needs to be a balance between like actual there needs to be a balance between like the actual realistic timeline of a prop, right? And also just like the feasibility. Because you can't say for a prop that just takes 3 days, just spitball like 3 weeks. That's not going to make sense to like the leads and the art director, for example. A simple sci-fi prop. Let's actually have a look, right? Because I did do some sci-fi props for Planet Coaster, for example. That's where my mind was going. I don't even know if I have. Do I have them on? Let's see, right? Well, let's take a better example actually. Because these are some of my first props that I ever made. For like Planet Coaster back in the day. So if you look at that picture, I could also bring it up on screen, but it's gonna mess with the chat, so I'm not gonna do that. If you look at that picture, for example, the door, that was pretty simple, but there's like a bunch of underlying technical stuff that needs to happen, or like even art direction changes where I didn't plan to use emissive on it first, and then they were like, oh, maybe we can use like an emissive texture to give it a little bit of light, and then it will look good in like nighttime in Planet Coaster. So that's all stuff that happened like in between. And then also getting used to the pipeline, for example, because this would take me let's think, like say if I put myself back into the mindset of like just getting out of uni, this would probably take me like a day or two to finish with like all the textures, like tweaking, art direction changes, and just building in a bit of a buffer, right? But I think this took me like a couple of more days because some stuff came in between, and then yeah, it's hard to say. It's just experience that now when I look at this, I would probably do it in like 1 day because I already know what like the technical limitations are. I already know what the game engine is like. I already know how to import and export stuff. There's like a lot of other stuff than just like creating the art. And also just the limitations of what you can use in terms of textures. Let's go back to the question though. Let's see if I answered it. Yeah, I think it always comes back to, because I hear this question a lot, right? Where people are concerned about their working speed. And it's just like, am I quick enough? Am I gonna be good enough for the industry? And honestly, the less you worry about that, the better it's gonna be for your art. Because you're not stuck with just thinking about that stuff in the background where it's like, okay, like I'm doing this, but am I good enough? Or like, am I quick enough? Like the only thing that they care about, especially in the beginning, is just your quality. Like the quality of your art, attention to detail, like how good your artistic insight is. And then the speed and all that stuff that comes with experience. And they know that that's going to improve like over the years. Like they don't expect you to be as quick as like a principal artist from like day one. That's just unrealistic. Ryan, that's a really good point, Tim. I'm generally pretty slow, but I also learn so much in the process. Exactly. And I think that's what a lot of people miss out on, is that all that learning that you do is stuff that you're gonna take on for years and years. Like, you can't really underestimate like the power of all that learning. All right, good question, Leon. Thanks so much, man. Let's dive into some chat questions. So let's have a look. Where's the first question? Yeah, no worries, man. Always happy to help. I haven't watched all your earlier AMAs, so I don't know if this has been asked, but what do you think you could improve most with your art? And this is specifically my art, right? This is not like a general statement. That's a good one. I think there's so much that I can still improve on. The big thing that I'm currently somewhat focusing on is, first, optimization. And optimization in a way where I'm just reusing way more. So, well, let's not call it optimization. Let's just call it like reusability of all my stuff. So where now I'm thinking that if I create stuff, I want to create it in a way where I can reuse it, maybe in different ways down the line. So say if I create a texture, I'll be really careful with where to save it and have like a proper structure, so that at some point, if I want to have like a plaster material, I can just go back to that and just reuse it instead of like recreating it every time. And the same applies for assets. The same applies for materials in Unreal Engine. So that's probably like the biggest thing that I'm currently focusing on. Apart from that, attention to detail, because that is something that always bothered me in my art, is that the grand picture looks good, and I think that's probably where I'm the best at the moment. But I also want to focus on like the really in-depth, like detailed sections, where I want to have like a big scene that I then fill up with like lots of smaller stuff to have like the micro scale done as well. Because I would say that's definitely where I can improve like a lot still. Let's think about, I mean, there's so much, right? Like lighting could definitely be improved. Probably the biggest challenge for next year is coming back to my earlier project, the sci-fi project, and really go in hand with that, and like really applying the stuff that I'm trying to apply now, like the reusability and how I can optimize my time spent with just iterating on stuff, and apply that to that sci-fi scene. Because that is a scene, looking back at it, where I was handling it in some really weird ways, to be honest. Just the way that I was building all my different assets, and not really going through like a proper block out stage too. That really cost me a lot of time. So yeah, it's a good question though, and I don't think I've even like answered that before. I don't mind anyway. Like, I don't expect everyone to listen to all the AMAs that I've done before. It's a bit unrealistic. So if we get like double up questions, that's all good. Thanks for the question, man. Appreciate it. Dr. Manhattan. First, thanks for the follow, man. Appreciate it. Or just thanks for the follow. I'm a game graphics student in DIA. Hey, DIA represent. We're getting more and more people from DIA joining the streams. And I work my ass off every single day to get an internship as an environment artist at Ubisoft. Could you give me some tips? Should I directly approach people working there? Kind of promoting. Hey, I appreciate it, Vayner. Thanks so much. What year are you currently in? Are you in a third year student, like actually looking for an internship, or are you still a first year or second year student and you still have some time to prepare your portfolio? First year. Okay, cool. Could you give any tips? So we're not at the stage where we're talking about portfolio specifically, right? Because I would definitely say if you want to become an environment artist, just be really, what would I say, like specific what you showcase on your portfolio. Sorry about that. So yeah, be really specific about what you showcase on your portfolio, right? You need to show that you have like a clear direction in what you want to do. So it's really good that you already know that you want to become an environment artist, because that's definitely already like a good guideline. So when it comes to that, obviously environments are going to be the biggest thing, but focus on the underlying artistic intention. At least in my opinion, that's where you're gonna get like a lot of mileage that is not dependent on the style. And what I mean with like the underlying artistic fundamentals is just like composition, how you use colors to affect a mood of a picture, how you guide the viewer through your art by using composition and like guidelines and like intentionally propping a space where you can either tell a story or you're guiding the player from like one player or viewer, right? They're like interchangeable in our case, where you guide them through your image, because I think I've said that a couple of times, where the underlying artistic foundations are way harder to teach people than all the technical stuff that you're gonna be learning in school. So what I would say, especially knowing like the curriculum from DIA, is that you're gonna be kind of forced in a good way to learn all the technical aspects that you need to learn to get your props and environments up and running. But also take the time in your personal work to really dig into like how to build something that looks good and what makes something look good. So that's where it comes down to the composition, like maybe even using or like go and do photography like every once a week or something. Like it doesn't have to be much, but photography was like a really big help for me to really understand how what we see in real life and how we can translate all the things that we think are pleasing and we don't really have an explanation for, and then translate that and break it down, and then we can use that in a game environment. So for example, if you're walking through a city and you're taking a picture of something that is like, oh, this is really cool. In the beginning, I assume that you're not going to know why that is pleasing to you. But the more you're going to do it, the more you're going to understand why it is pleasing. Where you can line up some of the buildings in like a certain way to affect the mood of the entire picture, or like play with the color contrasts. I know that this is like a really extensive example, right? But it basically comes down to, don't underestimate the power of the artistic fundamentals. That's what it comes down to. Then the next part of your question, should I directly approach people working there? I think that could be good. I think that could be interesting. Like, say in your second year, or like the second part of your second year, where you have something to show off, right? Like you probably have, was it like 1 or 2 environments then in your portfolio, and then you just start asking for feedback. This can be done through like Discord servers, or can also be done through like just directly reaching out to people and just asking them for feedback. I think that's a really good way of just getting guidelines and like getting help to properly prepare you for like the third year and possibly the 4th year, right? Like if you're an IoT student. Because yeah, you can definitely use feedback when going through such an intense program like DIA. And especially if you're working all your free time on it. So I think it's really good that you're already thinking about it 100%. Because it shows that you're aware of like what's coming in the future, which is a thing that I didn't really have when I was going through DIA. I was just like, oh, this is fun, let's do it. Yeah, really good question. Thanks so much. No worries. No worries at all. I mean, you can always message me, right? Like if you start building up your portfolio, you have a couple, or like even your first environment, you can always ping me a message. Honestly, probably the best way to do that is on Discord. Because I am on Twitter and all that stuff, but I'm not really that active. And I need to do a better job of just like combining, or like getting all my what is it, like getting all my communication into like one channel. Yeah, we do. Yeah, but that doesn't work. I haven't set that up yet. Thanks for trying, Vayner. So I run like a Patreon, and that gives you access to the community. So I'll just post a link here, right? And also, like, if you, this is a bit of a self-promotion, right? But like if you sign up for the tier that's currently available, then you also get like a large PDF compilation of just 140 tips, I think, at the moment. That are really useful for just like if you're interested in environment art. They're like all environment art specific. So, and it has stuff like it's not only like pure tutorials, right? It's also like what the different disciplines are for like environment artists and all that stuff too. Oh, also, I know I'm going a bit on a tangent, but if you wanna check out more, then, because I know that the barrier of entry with that was yeah, a really cool picture from Cyberpunk Raj. I hope you enjoyed it. But yeah, anyway, about the Beyond Extent, right? Is what was I gonna say? So you can check out the website, and there's like a lot of information on there, because the weekly tips that I'm doing, or like the compilation that you get, is basically the stuff that I do that is openly available in like the weekly tips in like my blog anyway. It's just like compiled in like a really nice format, so it's easier for you to just take on. Okay, go back into some questions though. enough self-promotion. Will surely do. I'm putting all I have into it, and I feel like I could be good at it. For sure. Keep following your dreams, man. That's really good. No worries. Hey, Pam, how you doing? Can you explain how the Patreon works? Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I'll do like a little bit of an explanation in a bit. This is Hovi. Thanks for the follow. After turning in my art test and getting rejected by Turbulent, I came pretty close to quitting the dream of becoming an environment artist. Obviously I didn't, but do you think that there's a time to pack it up and call it quits? I know what you mean, man. I could feel it. Like I could sense it, that you were just like ready to give up. And this is a really good question, because it's such a tough one, right? Where I am from the opinion that you just need to keep knocking on that door until like the door eventually opens, right? But the timeline for that door opening is going to be different for every individual. So it is kind of tricky, and I didn't have like a, what would you call it? Like I didn't have that moment in time where I didn't have a job or anything, or I was like rejected so much that I after uni I didn't have a job. Fortunately for me, right? So I was never in that mindset, but I do know that I applied for like, I think I keep saying this, like 100 studios, I think, for like an internship, and I got really lucky with just like the one that said yes, like out of 100 roughly. So I would never, I know that it's different like in different places, right? Because you might not have the choice available to you depending on where you live. But if you're really passionate about it, and if you're really interested in environment art, then I would never call it quits. You might need to look into other stuff to do in the meantime, right? Because like me saying that you shouldn't call it quits and then not having any money coming in and not having food on the table is also not like a good solution. So it totally depends on your personal situation. But honestly, in your personal situation, I think you're doing the right thing and just like going for it, because you got some good stuff on there, man. And sometimes it's also not just about like the work that you're doing, but also just being in the right time at the right place, and just keep applying, keep trying, and you'll get there in the end. Hey! Oh, thanks, Ryan. Not so crowded that your voice gets heard. Yes, exactly. And this is also going into the question that Pam asks, where, can you explain how the Patreon works? I've been trying to join, but it says that the basic one is out of stock. And this is basically that goes hand in hand with what Ryan was saying. I don't want to overcrowd the Discord server, and I want to steadily but surely grow it. So right now I think we have what is it, like 70 or 80 people in it, and then not everyone is active, which is like totally fine too, right? So I've been actually thinking about a structure where the tippy jar tier, like the lowest tier of the Patreon, is, I'm thinking about a structure where I open like a couple of slots a month or something, because I don't want to have it like limitless and then like a ton of people crowding in. Yeah, I hope that makes sense. Because there, like, I keep thinking about that, right? Because it's not, I don't think there's like an easy win to this. It's something that I keep thinking about a lot, where I could open it up and then just have like a ton of people come in, but then I feel like I'm personally worried that I can't connect with the people coming in if we have a lot of people coming in. And that's the thing that worries me, where I really want to connect with the people and I really want to help them on like a personal level. Not only the people that have signed up for like the higher tiers too, right? But yeah, that's the thing. I want that. I think it's all about like that personal connection and like how I can be of help the most. And I don't think that's with like a bigger Discord with just like thousands and thousands of people in it. Because to be honest, like if you already have those like with the dynasty and like experience points, and they're like totally fine. We're just smaller. And that's where the what is it, like the pay bump, or like there's like a specific word for that, like a little bit of monetary investment decides of where you want to come in or not. The last part was probably like really shittily explained, but I hope that makes sense. Also, can I sign up for the lower level after signing up for a higher level for a month and come back? Yeah, but only if the lower level is available, right? So say you sign up for the environment art tips compilation, and then you want to drop down to like the TP jar supporter, there needs to be like an open slot. So yeah, I would guess in this case where all the seats, quote unquote, are taken up, I don't think that's possible. That's a good point though. Now it has me thinking about that. Because I can see that is kind of annoying. Oh wait, maybe I misunderstood your question. And after sign up for a higher level only for a month and come back. Wait, I think I understood your question incorrectly. I had been thinking on like join on the lower level, and after I need more help to sign up for the bigger one, and after come back. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I see it. Well, to be honest, there's no difference in the amount of help that I offer people that are TP jar or that buy the compilation. The only thing that's the difference there is that you get like a compilation with like all the tips and tricks. Obviously there is like the monthly consultations thing that is currently limited to 6 people. So that's where we personally oh, okay, we're thinking about that one. Yeah, I've been thinking about maybe opening up a couple more slots next year. So right now I pay for the one-on-ones. If I decided I don't need help anymore with the one-on-ones, I couldn't do the TP jar. You never helped me, Tim. That's a lie. That's a lie. I helped you with your last environment. You're just not doing any art. That's the issue now. Nah, that's not true either. You did like the cat for the tree. Came out really good, by the way. With the little hat. Yeah, so back to your question, Pam. I'm thinking about opening up more slots next year. So I'll probably do like an update here once that happens. I appreciate it, Ryan. Didn't need the help anymore with the one-on-ones. I couldn't do the tippy jar. Yeah, I think that's also where differences in just like your location come in too, right? Because if you compare it to, I mean, this is a really boring monetary stuff, but like if you compare it to like mentorships in America, like the stuff that I'm doing is probably like really affordable, which I'm totally fine with, by the way. Oh, okay. Yeah, now it makes sense. Like in that case, if there was an open slot for the monthly mentorships, right? Like the highest tier, and you want to drop down to the tier lower, that's totally possible. I don't think you can, well, it's like I said before, right? Like there needs to be like an open slot in that tier. So if you want to drop down all the way to the lowest tier, then there needs to be like an open slot. But you can definitely just switch back from the highest tier to like the middle tier. Because that tier is never, I'm not putting a limit on that one because it's also my environment art compilation that's in it, right? I'll try to keep you updated on those positions. That's a really good shout. All right, are there any more questions? Oh wait, I skipped over your questions, Egu. Sorry about that. Let me. Do you have a Discord server? Yeah. We already got that question from Pam. That's looking good. Also, how many portfolio pieces do you think the optimal when applying to an environment art job? It's quality over quantity. I've seen people get in with like one piece, but then you're putting all your eggs in like one basket. So I would say diversification is definitely good. For example, you have, I don't know, you have one piece that is more foliage related. Not that foliage is such a crucial thing, right? Or maybe even more broad, like one man-made piece, which is more, I don't know, like back streets of Tokyo, just for example. And then one more organic thing where you just show off that you can also do more organic stuff like sculpting, like maybe even some foliage. Because I think if you do one piece that's showing off like one skill, for example, but like really good, you're narrowing the opportunities to get into the industry because you're so specific that there has to be like a specific opening that's looking for that specific skill, right? So for example, if it's sculpting rocks, for example, then there needs to be a position open for sculpting rocks specifically. In most cases, right? You know what? You know what I might do? Hmm. Oh no, never mind. I can't do that. Oh, want to become famous? Thanks for the question. Oh god. Want to become famous? Not really. But thanks for the question, annoying stupid bot. Bye bye. Hey, this is Ovi. How are you doing? Hey team, want to become famous? Another bot? Do I need to block you too? I mean, it's a legit question, right? But I think he's just pulling on the heartstrings. I would have probably said, I would probably have said yes, like in the beginning when I was posting my portfolio and like doing lots of personal work and all that stuff. But I just want to make cool art, man. I want to make worlds that where people just want to be, want to be enveloped in, like just an enjoyable world. Like I want to build something like, I mean, like Cyberpunk has got me in its grips right now, but that is such a well designed and well built world. It's so good. Want to become not famous? Oh yeah, being trending. It's such a weird thing, honestly. If we're talking about just ArtStation and like all the Twitter stuff, which I'm still doing, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm still marketing myself, and I don't think there's actually anything wrong with it. But if you look at the underlying stuff that you're catering to, it's just, I don't know, you being trending is just getting like more clicks than somebody else. And then there's people that probably exploit that as well by buying fake clicks. So I don't know. Maybe it's like my artistic side like popping up a bit too much, and it's just like it makes the intention of the art like a little bit more perverse than it should be. Like it should be about the art, not about like how many people see it. I know it's easier said than done, right? Because you're also looking for a job, so you need people to actually look at that art and like spread it that way. But yeah, I think it's always like an interesting thing to think about. Oh, Ryan, you've never seen one of those bots before? We've had a couple. So I'm hitting the big leagues now when I'm getting bots. Yeah, but I still remember the first time when I was what was it? Oh, like ArtStation picks, right? When my piece got picked for ArtStation, the jungle piece that I did. Don't get me wrong, like it's a good experience and like gives you like a lot of traction and it feels all fuzzy and warm inside. But then, I mean, the day after I was just working on my next piece. It's kind of weird, right? It's kind of weird. Have you had a oh shit you're the blogs dude moment from a random person yet? I've had some people that started up blogs and like mentioning me as like their inspiration, but like not really out of the blue. I wouldn't say out of the blue. It's mostly people that I've already talked to or like had a conversation with at some point. Yeah. the dude from Beyond Extend. Oh shit. Now, honestly, that's also why I named it Beyond Extend, right? Because I didn't want to call it like, I don't know, Tim's Art Corner or whatever. I wanted it to be like more community focused, where I don't want to show off my work in the beginning. I'm showing off like the community members' work. Like that's the stuff that I'm more interested in now. And like growing together and like seeing other people like make cool shit. That's beyond Tim. Damn it. Missed on a good name. Dry Flies. Fucking hell. Dry Fries. Where were you all when I was thinking up about good names? God damn it. I should name it Dry Fries and just have like some really nicely sculpted fries as like the front page of like the website or something. Dry Fries? If you ever need a brand change, I charge an exposure. Oh god damn it. I don't have any exposure, man. I'm all out of exposure. Maybe when I post my next work, I'll get some more exposure bucks and then I'll pay you. Maybe we can do like an exposure revenue share model where if I make exposure, I'll give you like 10% of my exposure or something. Oh yeah, we're still doing AMA, right? So if you got any questions, thanks for the reminder, Kevin. So if you got any questions, then just feel free to just drop them in the chat and I'll go through them. So yeah, Kevin, when you were looking for your first job in the industry, were you picky about the studio you wanted to apply for? No, off topic is good. It doesn't always have to be like super strict about like just questions and that's it. Give me a shout out in the comments. Just bury you under all my hashtags. Hey, still counts, right? So yeah, Kevin. What I was doing when I was applying for my first job in the industry, I built a list. I don't know other people that did this, but I basically built a list with like priorities. So they were like my couple of dream studios back then, where it was like, or like the bigger studios, right? Like Ubisoft, Bethesda, and some others were in there, and they were like, look, I'm gonna get lucky if I get into those. And then there were like the nice to haves, and then basically all the rest. It sounds like really shitty, but it really allowed me to prioritize where I wanted to send my applications to. So I think, I had like my dream studios, nice to have, and then there was like a step in between, and then I have all the rest, I think. Can't remember the third step though. Can't remember. You have that list as well. Yeah, that's good. I think it just really helps with like prioritizing. And then what I did, it was kind of weird. I was thinking about the list in like the inverse direction in a way. because I wanted to start with the studios that I wasn't really interested in yet, because I was going out from the assumption that this is my first time applying. So I want to get some experience with applying first before I send them off to like my dream studios. So I think it was like a month or something where I was just writing applications, and yeah, I started with like some mobile studios and some studios that if I were to get a job, like I would have taken it, right? But it wasn't like my highest priority, or it would give me options. But it was more, I saw it as like training into like how to write an application, and then seeing how they would reply, if they would reply at all. And then I had some experience when I started applying for my dream studios. So by the time that I applied for Ubisoft and Bethesda, for example, I already knew how to write a cover letter. I already knew how to write an application and all that stuff. Or like I at least had a bit more experience. But yeah. Oh man, I wrote so many applications. And there were a lot of wrong applications in there too. Like I probably made like all the mistakes that you could think of. Like all the worst things. Like probably the worst thing is just like sending an email to Studio X and then naming it Studio Y. And it's just like, oh, well, the mail is gone. Like I can't do anything about this. And it's like, shit. I think it was a pretty big studio as well. Where it's like, for example, I sent them like, Dear Codemasters, for example, and then I sent that off to like Frontier Developments. Those were not the studios that I mentioned in that mail, but it's something like that, where it's just like, damn it, how can I be so stupid? And then most of the time you have like a personalized section in the email as well, right? Where you do some investigations, you do look at the work that they're doing, and then you see if that interests you or not, and then you write that into like a personalized section into the email. So I think I sent like a personalized section for, I don't know, again, as a random example, like Codemasters to Frontier or something like that, where it's like, oh man, so stupid. Oh well, live and learn. Can I apply to the Beyond Extend Studio as an admin? I don't know. I'll need to set up a rigorous art test for you. Oh, that's a very good question, Pam. Could you say any cover letter tips? That's probably like I don't like cover letters. Because the way that I've always seen cover letters is that you're really trying to give them a personalized overview of the kind of person that you are, what your interests are in like a one-pager, for example. But are they looking at cover letters at all? That's honestly a very good question. I think they do. I don't know, I just assume that they do, right? Because if they don't, then why ask for a cover letter at all? Like, if they don't look at a cover letter, then it feels like such an unnecessary burden on both HR, artists, and also the people that are applying. So they must look at cover letters just to get like a better understanding of the kind of person that you are and why you want to get into the games industry to begin with. This also reminds me that I finally need to finalize like a couple of articles that I wrote for like basically the entire road of getting into the industry, from like finding your first application to like going all the way through like the interviews and getting your work. I think that's like my New Year's resolution, that I need to fix that and just finally post it. Ryan, does HR look at your portfolio first or the cover letter first? So when we're talking about specifically HR, they probably look at the cover letter first, because they don't really have the artistic insight to really tell if a portfolio is good or not. This is like a generalized statement, right? So there might be some people in HR with like good artistic insight that know, and they know to tell a good portfolio from a bad one. I don't want to throw them in the dirt just straight away, because they don't deserve it at all. But what I think and what I've seen personally is that most of the people that we hire at our studio, for example, they are people that artists have seen online, and like random on Twitter, they're like, oh, I just got let go or whatever, I'm looking for my next job. And then the artist within the studio brings them forward to either like recruitment, or the artist reaches out themselves. Because I've been a part of some recruitments as well, like getting people in. And in those cases, like the first person that I got in was Marta. She was my first mentor, my first mentee, and she did a really awesome job. And I was like, look, we're dealing with a really talented person here, so maybe we can set something up. And then I set up like the interview, but then I removed myself from the interview process myself, because I was obviously biased as like her mentor. And then the other people, the other artists that were involved in the interview process, they made the decision to then eventually hire her. So that was really cool to see, because she was already, she came from like a design background, but she took like a year-long break, and then just fully dedicated herself to environment art. So yeah, I would say that is highly likely that it happens that way in general, right? When it comes to HR specifically, if we're only talking about HR, they probably look at your CV and your qualifications is there, your years of experience and all that stuff before the portfolio. Hey, Sniper Echo, how's it going? Glad to see you here, buddy. Yeah, sure. I'll link her. I'm sorry that I didn't pronounce your surname, Marta. Marta Nimsiska? God damn it, I'm so bad. Here we go. Well, yeah, this is the thing, right? Like I put her forward to our lead artist, and he was like, "Yeah, sounds good. Let's see if we can set something up." This was before COVID and all, right? So I set up the interview, but then I wasn't a part of the actual interview myself. It was more about just setting up the interview itself, and then just letting the other artists take it from there. Because obviously, as our mentor, I was just way too biased. Like we needed some like unbiased people to just make that decision. There were the part where I was involved in was just the part where it's more about like your soft skills and what I think of her as a person, as like, is she a good team fit, and all those non-technical related questions. But this is the thing, right? Like, it might differ from other studios too, where for some studios it works like this, but for other studios it might work in like a completely different way. Yeah, right. She did a really good job, and that's also the thing. Like, that cyberpunk scene that we basically we did that as like a mentorship together, right? But like I'm gonna say like 90% of it was hers. Like, obviously, like, she did all the work and all that stuff. But like, even like the underlying artistic insight, she had a good idea of what she wanted to build and like where to put emphasis, how to model stuff. The thing that I helped her with just a little bit was just environmental storytelling and how to really bring out that side. But yeah, she did a really good job on this. Honestly, this came out really nice. So all the props go to her. Really good job. Yeah, she was also one of the first members from Beyond Extend too. It's crazy to see. What is it, like 2 or 3 years ago? It's also fun to still be working with her too. It's really cool to see her grow inside of the studio too. All right, people. Any other question? Anything that you can think of? Because else, I might just cut this one here and do some more personal work. Doing some more simulation stuff, making some bags and making some pottery. Nighttime! Oh, night, Tim. Okay. Enjoy the night, man. Alright, people. I'm probably gonna cut this one here then. Yeah! Have a nice Sunday, everyone. Thanks so much for being here for this AMA. If you're interested, you can always just either like join the community, right? Or you can just be here like next week and then just drop all the questions that you want. It was really awesome to have you all here. And I wish you a very nice Sunday, all. See ya!